The country was faced with the importation of all kinds of food materials, especially canned food. This bill, therefore, seeks to establish internationally recognized standards for the consumption of all types of food and fare.
The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Abdoulaye Bojang, then opened the floor for discussions.
Honorable Speaker, Gambians have been very concerned about the quality and safety of food items imported in our country.
Speaker after speaker rose to support the bill they said is timely. Having listened to both sides of the House, the Vice President responded to some of the issues raised.
I agree with the member for Woodley West that we have contaminated oils, there's no doubt about that, and foods at our various markets. And he has also highlighted the incidence of diseases of lifestyle, among them high blood pressure. Of course, other MPs have also, members of parliament have highlighted the issue of diabetes, and there are many more that we are not known in this country. We are only known as diseases of affluence, but unfortunately, these days is the poor who are suffering from these diseases, all because of what we eat. Therefore, sensitization, I agree. Information, education, communication is key.
After a critical study of the bill, which has been read a second time and gone through a committee of the whole House with all the necessary amendments, the Food Safety and Quality Bill 2011 and the establishment of the Gambia Food Safety Authority shall be read a third time before it is adopted and finally passed into law. Mama J, GRTS.
The Kanilai Family Farm Limited informs the public that it will start selling high-quality cement all over the country at a unit cost of $180 for every 50 kilogram bag, effective today, Thursday, 23rd June 2011. A media dispatch issued by the Kanilai Farms Limited says this is in line with its mission of ensuring that the Gambian population has one of the basic human needs, coupled with a decent and high standard of living. Kanilai Family Farm Limited, through the release, assures its esteemed and prospective customers alike that its wish is to ensure that each and every Gambian is able to acquire the best of quality commodities and inputs necessary for the construction of an affordable and proper shelter for all. From there we go for our first break. We'll be back. Welcome back. In Senegal, protests against proposed changes to the country's constitution has resulted in clashes between demonstrators and riot police outside parliament. The proposal, which seeks to provide double voting for both the president and the vice president, is seen by many as a scheme by the incumbent to get his son succeed him at the end of his tenure. We have more in this report.
In Senegal's capital, Dakar, at least 10 people are hurt in clashes around the Parliament building, where decision makers are preparing to vote on controversial changes to the country's constitution. Amid clouds of tear gas, security forces skirmished for several hours with anti-government protesters. 83-year-old President Abdoulaye Wade wants to introduce a double vote next year for president and vice president. Opponents say he's grooming his son Karim Wade to take the number 2 slot so he can inherit the presidency at the end of his father's rule.
The danger is that here in Senegal we're no longer in a country of law. Whether the changes are voted on or not, the most important thing we must do is demand that Wade must go.
Protesters heckled and booed at MPs entering the chamber. Mustafa Niasse, a leading opposition figure, joined up with the demonstrators outside the parliament.
The Senegalese need to act. The situation is becoming dangerous and unacceptable. We're in the 21st century. This is not a time for dictatorship, but for democracy.
In the face of the discontent, the president made some concessions. An amendment aiming to reduce the percentage of votes required to win the presidency in the first round of the vote has been dropped. The change would have made it virtually impossible for opponents to field a second-round candidate.
15 people, including 3 children, killed by a NATO airstrike in the Libyan capital Tripoli, have been buried on Thursday. In an audio broadcast, a defiant Libyan leader, Muammar Gaddafi, accused NATO of murder and hostility against the Libyan people. Details in this report.
Hundreds of mourners gathered Wednesday to bury the 15 victims Libya claims were killed by a NATO airstrike on Monday. NATO said it was targeting a command center, but Libya says NATO hit a compound belonging to a close Gaddafi associate, Kowaldi al-Hamidi, and killed 15 civilians, including at least 3 children, 2 of whom were Hamidi's granddaughters, seen here being carried by their father.
Now we have to pay a very heavy price of casualties, civilian casualties, and also military casualties. I think the time has come for the world to understand that this conflict has to come to an end immediately.
Following the recent NATO admission that its bombs may have caused civilian casualties, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi accused the organization of murder in an audio broadcast on Wednesday.
You have turned the world into a jungle, and maybe your rules of engagement will be used against you, and your houses will be legitimate targets for us, along with your children. They will be legitimate targets.
NATO strikes are coming under increasing criticism across Africa. Many people are calling for an immediate ceasefire, and the African Union, which is attempting to mediate, is condemning action by Western nations in Libya.
It seems that there is a sort of absolute power without any check and balance to 3 or 4 countries in Security Council. So generally they take the decisions and they want it to be implemented by the rest of the world.
New splits emerged on Wednesday in the NATO coalition as Italy called for an immediate halt to hostilities to allow for humanitarian aid deliveries. Meanwhile, pro-Gaddafi forces continue to bomb the besieged city of Misrata, where the death toll increases daily.
And over now to sports. The Gambia National Olympic Committee recently observed this year's Olympic Day Run with various sporting activities. Scores of people, including dignitaries, athletes, and sports enthusiasts, graced the event held at the Serekunda East Mini Stadium. Neibuso was there.
For the first time in the annals of the Gambia's Olympic Day Run, the Serekunda East Mini Stadium hosted the event with a string of sporting disciplines, namely athletics, volleyball, and handball. Saturday's event started with the normal Olympic Day Run from the Abuko Art Station to the East Mini Stadium. The day was graced by officials of the National Olympic Committee, whose presence was meant to boost the morale of the athletes. The president of the Gambia National Olympic Committee, Mamadou Diba, expressed satisfaction with the high turnout of the athletes and seized the moment to pledge his office's commitment to helping the winners in their learning career.
This is the Olympic Day celebration, but at the same time, we want to give recognition to the role that government is playing in the area of sports, and the National Sports Council working towards the All Africa Games in 2011, the Isle of Man Games also in November in 2011, and the Olympic Games in 2012. The Olympic movement in the Gambia, under the auspices of the GNOC, will work tirelessly to ensure that sports development has taken its place in this country.
Ms. Beatrice Allen, GNOC's first vice president, was on hand to deliver a statement on behalf of the International Olympic Committee's president.
His vision, which is being celebrated today on Olympic Day, was for everyone regardless of age or ability. And it was a